Hello everyone, welcome to the Instagram Live. So as architects and interior designers, we all have Instagram profiles which we are active on. I thought it would be interesting to discuss whether we still need a website or not beyond the social media profile, and to have a web developer tell us more about this. So Vachan was an interesting person to get in touch for this because he's not just a web developer, but he also has a background in architecture. His firm KDC was started in 2002 while he was still in college, and since then it has grown into a full-fledged web development agency offering web design, hosting, domains, e-commerce, branding, content strategy, SEO, teleservices. He in fact adds a service or two new every year. Vachan is also a proponent of FOSS, which is free and open source software. He helps startups grow their businesses and their online presence, and he is also a part of the India community chapters for WordPress and for Woo. Hi Vachan.
Hi.
How are you?
Yeah, doing well. So new to the whole social media experience for me.
Welcome to an Instagram live. I hope you have fun on your first one. Um, KDC and your works.
Yeah, hi. College times, I was very intrigued by the internet. Then this was in 2002. My own name, and that time Gmail or these kind of services didn't exist that much. So this got me exploring into the whole realm of what exactly is the internet. Uh, I've always been a curious kid, opening up toys and understanding how things work. So the same thing happened. Everything, the technology behind the internet works, and that got me curious to build, get engrossed more into it, and be from playing around a level wherein we actually, I realized that it has a high professional uh, expertise that can get into the whole picture and can become a profession for me. Uh, I always was someone who actually liked the combination of design and technology, which is exactly towards architecture, which is also the similar combination of design with technology. And thus, academically, I have studied architecture, but the last since started from 2002, the agency was always running in the background, always, and so in today's date, we have that in the introduction every year or now we kind of start something new. So, expertise team makes more sense to deal with that stream of work. So basically, that's how it has been growing organically. And so in 2017, and I realized in that time that the organization has grown so organically to a level where my 100% attention is not required. So it grew into its self-running system. And after 2 years, when I said, okay, now it's high time I should get into the whole picture, I realized that instead of dealing with large corporations and doing large scale projects, I personally basically it works with more one-on-one client basis, wherein we actually meet the client And so we generally like to call it like a mom and pop shop, wherein like we are actually dealing with the real person who's taking the decision. So that's love the FOSS culture, which is the open, free and open source software. So the open source creative person people, because and story writers, makeup artists, folio for the studio at the current time.
Okay. So tell me, to start the discussion as a very fundamental question, as an architect or an interior designer, why do I even need a website? Isn't my Instagram?
Thing that people have that, okay, why do I need a website? But the idea is, if you take the example of Instagram, Instagram was designed to have a the term itself, gram. So it's only about the photo, at the max, a small video. But a website can do a lot more. And being a professional, creative professional, only visual is not a right approach. You have to have more attached to it. And another biggest happening, and then you get an update. But the thing is, that project has gone way big. Time reach, or it doesn't have something you can't to not work, because a web
Categorize them in some sort?
extensive, it would be probably a combination of images, galleries, of visual mediums. Then there are information. There could also be something like a research-based website, which again could be more descriptive, or a collection of information. Then there are, for example, when I say two-way interaction, one is you could have a live chat or a conversation, plus or uh, a front-facing store also. That's also another category of website. So let's say, as I said, website is required for conversion. So if a client on your website, the conversion is much easier rather than if you would have to do forward. They know what you're seeing, and like once they're convinced, they're coming to you. So the conversion is much faster and the rate is higher.
Okay, all right. So let's say by now we are convinced that yes, I need a website. What is the first few
First and the most primary thing that you have to do is content. In marketing they say content is the king, but content. So a website is nothing but just the content which is categorized well. So that's how I believe content has to be the most critical and important thing. Uh, it could be drawings, it could be photograph is the most primal, the most basic thing is a photograph because being a design professional, your design aesthetics have to come out, and the best medium all that talks a lot about how you think is a very primary aspect of a content when you're talking things. So content is the primary thing, one thing, and then once you have feel is something that you need to focus on is your flow of things. Now, when I say flow, it could be navigation or the user experience. Would want to do this on your website. See, because website, you don't have the control of what the user is going to do on your website. The only control you have is to give them some direction that you feel is positive for your project or your important. Whether you want to first show your gallery and then take them to a description and then take them to a content and because that's how you'll control what they can see and design oriented things still it matters, but in case of a design professional, this is like one of the most critical elements because as a design professional design uh, because you're going to design their space or their product or their furniture or whatever, so you are going to design something for them, so they need way you to show what you think. So the look and feel, what we say, or the aesthetics of the website makes a lot. And the aesthetics. These are the three primary things you should keep in mind.
Something like the target audience, like
it's you can think because depending let's say the first thing that I said, conversion. If you're thinking for conversion, then your portfolio section has to be very strong because you're expecting the viewer to come then your target audience will be what do you say, a potential client. So the approach will take for the user experience will be different. As versus, let's say you're happy with the volume of customers that you have, or clients you have, that a media publication or something of that nature comes in the flow of your website, that is more media personal friendly. So if you friends and show your work around according to that, your past publications, your this, that. So your flow again could change accordingly. And another segment probably could, I also want to show in general the world what I'm doing. So that's about like maybe sharing with the peers. So it should just be your ideas, your concepts, your enhance and grow your scope and capabilities. So that's why it put under the target audience would be your peers, your design peers. So
Architecture firms which are much smaller in size and certain which are much larger. In that case, will a website differ between these two firms?
the portfolio or the gallery. So what happens is agency, the number of projects also will be equal. So projects could be different. Like if you have very few projects, you could probably mash up all the projects and kind of create a single gallery of the most powerful, them project basis and not have a general category, sorry, general gallery, but project based galleries, or compared to a complete large project, large enterprise who've done a lot of work. So it's more built up to use case scenarios or even chronology. Like the project was built 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, now currently happening, that way chronology. So it does make a difference how the website.
All right. Okay. Let's assume by now we are convinced that we need a website. And one thing when you start looking into this is you keep hearing these things called templates. So could you very briefly tell us what does this platform mean and the pros and cons of each of these three?
Because they are something to do with a DIY kind of a solution. Now, when you say WordPress, WordPress is a software, but WordPress.com is a platform. So what WordPress.com has done is they've created a ready to use, like one click select some few designs and WordPress platform, .com platform. But in my view, in my personal view, Squarespace is more focused on designers because their designer would prefer to have. So their whole approach is design pro, designer pro, whereas Wix's target is everyone who wants a website. Sorry. So that's how I differentiate them. But flexibility, Squarespace, as I said, gives you more design flexibility, and Wix gives you a lot of tools which can at times get overwhelming. But again, these are something about my personal opinions. Your experience as you do the DIY, you might have a different experience with it.
All right. Moving forward with some basic technical or the firm's name, but then comes the end bit of it. So there are like .coms and .cos, .ins. So does it really matter which one of these do I choose? And do they differ in costs, or what is the basis of selection?
Okay, so what you're referring to is actually called the domain name. So domain name is actually domain name, which is like, for example, KDC is our domain name, or the KDC name is the part of the domain name, and dot something. That dot something is called an extension. But today's date, it has become a different aspect because there are multiple domain extensions in today's date. So rightly now there are around 2,900 plus domain extensions that are available in the industry. Of course, I am not saying everything works. Categorization is happening. So what they've done is, if whatever suits you, like there's an extension for .com, for a .design or a .studio or a .agency. These are more relevant to our design is if you are very not great about that.
All right. The other thing that we keep hearing along with domain is something called hosting. Could you briefly, or will somebody else take care of it for me?
So hosting is extremely technical stuff. So it is not, even to summarize it in a very small common language, it's nothing but a computer sitting in the internet, which is available 24/7. So it's nothing but you are wherever you're designing these things, like all your images, content, all your graphical or visual content. Platform like what we discussed earlier, those WordPress.com or Squarespace, or they're an all-in-one solution. As I said, you just log in and you start using it. So they take care of your everything, like your to an extent to your domain. They take care of your hosting. They take take care of the platform itself, not using any platform. So that's when you worry about the hosting. And if you're not using any platform, that either you've done the research yourself and that's the reason you're moving out, or you've hired an agency or a developer. And if you've done, they probably would have given you a solution for that. Solutions available even for that. Just purchase one which is suit you feel.
So websites, always have some different kind of pages or sections. So what are the typical ones that an architect or an interior designer's website should have? And what would you like? How would you strategize designing it, or what content goes on it, and things like that?
Type the domain name. That's where you visit the website. That's called the home page, or in some people call it the landing page. Okay, so this is something which is like the first impression of the website. It's very critical to design this. So in my practice, an individual practice, or in my agency practice, what we do is we design this page the last. You start distributing this content across your website, and that's what defines. It shouldn't be repetitive, but it should still represent you, so that we know how to take the people from the homepage to the other section. So that's why we design the homepage last, but that's a call that everyone takes on their own. Coming to what other sections can be there, a portfolio or a projects page, or something of that size, a gallery or something. So that's one thing very important that you should have on your website. So typology of that, as I said, defined by how much content you have. Another very important part which people are very lazy to do is having an about page. Now, about page, why I'm saying is this. So what happens in that case? One carrot to the whole scenario is that comes an advantage is because there's some description. So the descriptive nature of this page helps to get more recognition in the internet. So that's why an about page, even if you feel it's what's the need of you being lazy about it, don't be. It's highly critical to have one, and an effective one. So that's one page. Contact page. As I said, the differentiator between a social media and a website is the conversion factor. So if you don't have a conversion factor, which is the contact page, the whole website in a way loses its main purpose. So having a contact page is important. Now when I say contact page, it doesn't literally need to be a starkingly visible. So having just an email ID, that was a medium of contact. It could be an email ID, it could be a contact form, it could be a number, but that again, number depends on what you Outlook rather, sorry, and or the address if you want walk-ins or something like that. I don't know. So the content of the contact page is up to you, but having a contact information section is very critical because that's how the conversions will happen. Right. And then the basic things like if you've been published somewhere, even if like a peer has listed you on their social media as an article, so these are something depending on that also you would need this section because it also is a driver for conversion. So that, and then there are research pages or blog pages or or something activity page.
All right. So when you were describing the about page, you mentioned something called search engine optimization, and its abbreviation SEO you keep hearing about it once you start researching websites. A lot of
Sure.
people are very scared with SEO. So a couple of questions on that front. Firstly, what is this SEO? Second, is it important? Why is it important? And third,
Okay.
do I
Huh. Okay. So your first question, what is SEO? Okay. SEO is basically the full form is search engine optimization. So considering Google, like 80% of the traffic comes from Google in search engine industry. That's what is believed. So let's just take that example. Crawler, what they call the robot, which actually goes in the World Wide Web, starts searching for things, even if no one is searching for it. What it does is it itself goes as a, it sends an army of robots to find out what agency in Mumbai who are doing XYZ category of projects, this, that. What the bot has done is it's gone, read this, and kept it in its memory. So now next time when internet user comes to a search engine and asks, okay, I'm looking for an architect in Mumbai. Okay, so this is what the search engine does. It goes back to its robot and asks it from a memory, did you find any architects in has information about this person? And that's why it shows you as a result. So it is extremely important to have. Question. Third question was
who
uh,
takes care of it?
who takes care of your search engine optimization? So search engine actually is a very specialized skill set. Not every developer will provide it, and even if they're doing it, you be providing this as a service, or will it be integrated or whatever? Uh, but there are some small ways that you can also manage this very basic level. So that is the tricks of having a good search result. Another one is that, for example, being a design professional, I've always been saying, photographs, images, these make a lot of impact for us to represent us. But the drawback of a photographer today's date, there's machine learning and all that. Come on, that's understood. But why do you want it to stress that much? You make it much easier for the search engine to realize that what this image is about. The best way to do that would be to just give a caption, just giving a caption for, let's take example. You give it as a caption. The bot is understood that when I say bot, it's a robot. It's understood that this image is representing a drawing or a content which has a bungalow image. So now when someone searches for an architect who's done a good bungalow, even by the even by the caption to push you because you've done a bungalow as compared to something else. So that's why one of the another tips I would like to give is, having a caption, or you can hire an agency that will be effective if you want to beat the crowd.
Okay, so my takeaway from that is going to be that while we understand it's important, as the client or the end person, I can do certain things of SEO and get its proper benefits. There'll have to be a specialist person who takes care of it for me or who can consult me on this. All right. Moving further, so a lot of designers also dabble into creation of products. So these could be things like home accessories, furniture, artworks, and things like that. So is there a way that on their own website they can create a storefront to be able to sell?
Yeah, definitely there is a scope. But also what I would like to add to this scope is that earlier, as we talked about the platforms allow you to do commerce, but they might get restricted restrictive and limited in some scale or some scopes, because for example, they might be limited in what payment mode you can accept, or to what extent of customization you can do to the product. In case if you feel that you have come to a stage in life where you need to do these activities on your website, I would strongly suggest either move on from a platform to a self-hosted thing or a self-developed thing, or by yourself if you've done that research, or know how to handle these very easily. And the reason why it is important to have it on your website is because as we've been saying continuously that being a design professional, the aesthetics matter a lot. So kind of puts off the person who's visiting it, and that's why it should not be on multi-platforms. It should be on a singular platform, which is your website. So it kind of talks the same language or the uniform language website with the front end of a shop front end or something of that nature. Like taking some examples, I have my organization has done a lot of projects wherein it started as an architecture firm, then they realized that they are a design agency in general, so they moved on to like stationery, graphics, wallpapers, doing products, doing furniture, e-commerce solution along with your portfolio, along with your regular website solution. So it is quite possible. And it one example is so we are working with. They wanted to plan workshops and your heritage walks and all that. So we set up an RSV system for them on their website itself. So the website can not only just show portfolio, but can do a lot more things.
Okay. So you can even sell tickets to an event, for example, on the website. Correct. Okay. So now let's say we've reached. Is that should I just make my own website, or do I need to go to a professional like a web developer like yourself? Like, how do I decide that?
So it's about, as I said, you can always explore the DIY solutions, but I have realized that many of our ex-clients have come trying want their website to look like. So that becomes a restriction on platforms, because platforms are designed for generic use. So they might not be able to fulfill all your design requirements. Maybe you can use an existing design platform or tool, like for example a theme, what is called a theme or a template, and tweak it to some. You will have to look for a web professional, because the web professional will probably be able to give you the exact thing that you have imagined. But I'm not saying web professional is the only medium. If you're curious enough, and designers generally tend to be very curious to do these things themselves, so you can explore it. There are tons of mediums, but my suggestion would be, but website is not only design, it has a lot of technicalities involved. So if you are ready to explore as I said, I love design and technology. If you're like me, who also doesn't mind dabbling with the technology, you can do it. But for the larger audience, I would think they would much focus on take away the burden of doing it everything yourself. Probably you could do the initial by someone and then ask them to hand it over to you for maintenance, in the sense they give you some tools that you can update it yourself. So it's like a hybrid thing. And or let's say your scale of projects is that much that you don't have manpower to kind of maintain, update, and accordingly understand what they can do for you.
Okay, all right. Okay, so let's say an architect or an interior designer is listening to us right now. They've decided they want to go with a web developer because they want to go with an expert to get a good end result. So what are the questions questions you ask a potential web developer? Who's the best developer for you?
Many times we get these kind of questions that, okay, we want a website, what are your packages? I strongly of a designer, I would say stay away from people who say, oh, I have XYZ package, choose whichever you want, and this is how your website will get started. That's not how a website should ideally be, especially for a design professional, because website is going to reflect your persona. It's your digital persona of you. Design understands what your requirements are. So if you have an interaction, make sure that interaction is positive enough that they are not just picking up stuff and giving it to you. They understand what your requirement is and give you solutions rather than just giving you a stamp. So that's one of the things I would suggest you to do. Look out for what a designer or developer agency you want to look at. Another thing is you can definitely work with freshers. I encourage that a lot because I have when we give WordPress is the software. I'll come back once when we have the time on a different discussion. So we do WordPress training wherein we teach people how to make. Freshers can also be freshers can give you better results because they'll have the enthusiasm to build something great because it's probably a new thing for them. So they want to explore more options and give you the best possible solution. So fresher, have a dialogue with them, understand what they understand of design and what they are trying to figure out for you. And that's so I would this is what you have to give me. That doesn't happen for a website because you have to understand it is representing you. You know, your persona, your identity just didn't become built one day. If you're an architect, it took probably 5 years to make it. If you're an interior designer, it probably take 2 or 3 years to make it. So have 1 or 2 interactions. Understand who the designer or developer you want to approach, and it should make that comfort level because it's representing. Which also I don't know whether to call it a positive. It's a problem or a thing, but people have concepts of, oh, I want to do it in this much budget. You have to understand when you want creativity, budget should be variable. But if you have a fixed budget, make it clear to the developer that this is my budget. Can you do something in that? There's a possibility that if I extend my budget to this, can I get some more features? So keep it more feature and feature based than budget restricted. Of course, budget is a consideration, but
okay. So because you touched upon budget just now, and I understand that nobody can give a defined budget that this much is the cost of your website because that completely depends on so many factors. Still, if you could help our listeners with getting us some idea of a broad range that you're looking at, so much to so much. Are there any recurring costs or other fees that we need to worry about? For instance, you mentioned earlier in the conversation that domains need to be renewed annually. So I know that a domain cost is annual. So like apart from domains, is there any other cost that
it's a very difficult question because, as I said, in this entire conversation, there were so many moving parts. Now, when there are so many moving parts, I myself as an agency provider or a web professional, I myself have been involved with projects which have been done even in 25,000 or even we've ourselves done projects which have costed 50 lakhs. Wow. So it's wide range. approach, how much of data, everything. There's so many components which if I start getting into it, it could be probably a different session altogether of how costings get involved in website designing. But what I could probably do, as you said, I could break it down that you should be aware of. So yes, definitely there are two components. One is the fixed cost component and one is a variable cost component, or rather recurring and a one-time cost component. So things like domains, and they vary. Every dot extension has its own rate card. Like it could be $5-6 here and there extension that you have. So for example, it starts anywhere from like $8. I'll be more comfortable with dollars because that's how global industry works for me. But it's about an extension. And of course, as I said, depending on availability or what suits you as a design of your, only critical if you're doing it yourself or your agency is doing it, because that's when you have to look into it. Otherwise, the platform, if you're using some platform like a WordPress.com, you will not have to separately. But again, it is a recurring cost. Till the time you are using the platform or the hosting provider, you will be, if you have a developer, they'll be the best judge to tell you which package to take, because packages differ, for hosting. If you have a very basic website with just portfolio, description, storefront or a product, or more of interactive things like event ticketing or a chat, or maybe I don't know, live interactions happening, that could require some more advanced hosting. So guide will be your developer, and if you're doing it yourself, you'll have to do some research on hosting. There are many providers. There's no right or a wrong answer in that. And another recurring cost is something wherein, rather recurring cost, I'll jump to one fixed of the research or the implementation that you're doing. But if you're doing the entire setup till the time they go live, and a few months here and there for giving you some update or a crash course for how to maintain it. So that's probably one thing that they'll charge you as a one-time fee. And as I said, that varies. The one-time about so it can, to any extent, it depends on the features, the person's experience, and many components to this. So now the two components of recurring were the domain and hosting, which is technical. Now comes the another recurring cost, which could be maintenance, because maintenance, being a design professional, you should ideally do regular maintenance. The frequency is up to you, depends on what kind of projects you do. It could be weekly, monthly.
You could tell us quickly, and then we'll take some audience questions.
So maintenance, generally the tech part is taken care of maintenance. But again, now maintenance, one is the content, updating the content. That's one of the components of a maintenance. Who does the maintaining of the updating of the content? Whether you as the owner of the website does it. So in that case, you would probably require some tools, and those tools will be provided along by research. Then there would be something like a WordPress.org, which is a software. Okay, so that software allows you to, it gives you a software, you download it, you install it on the hosting that you thought is best for you, and you start using your website without any developer help. So, so this is the backend that, so there's something called as a backend which allows you to add data, add content. When I said add data or content, it's basically your portfolio. You're adding a new project into the portfolio. That's what is maintenance of content. That's where content. But your headache of updating increases. Or another agreement would be you tell the developer, I'll give you a regular, we'll have a regular interaction that on a monthly basis or a weekly basis or a quarterly basis. We'll give you so much content. You have to update it on our page. We'll have a contact form. If you're selling tickets, you would have a ticketing functionality. So these are called functionalities or add-on features. Now these features are made available on your website through things called plugins. Use it on your website, which are called, and these are something which could have a recurring or maybe a one-time for. So these are again something that you will have to consider that these will be something that can have a recurring effect to you. And sometimes if you're using a ready template or a theme from an open source project or a marketplace, then you might have to even consider that could also be recurring for updates and maintenance.
Got it. All right. So I think when I had shared about this topic a couple of days before, I got a whole bunch of questions from people. So we've got a few minutes left on the live. So let's just take a couple of them. Rishabh Malani had asked how much time is usually needed to make a website from scratch.
Content. We get, there are only two types of client. They are saying, this is the content, please tell me how much my website will cost, how much I have to give, and what time it will take. Or the other, I want a website. I have to clean up the content and browse and drag through, okay, what I need to use and how do I design the flow. And other way also, if there is no content, just taking Kunal as an example, I have been asking him for 1 year, let's make your website. He has so much content that he doesn't, I don't know how he's going to sort this out. So, but one thing, like he's made me come online on a social media platform, which I am like very thankful for.
It's the same as a photographer when we go on a shoot. If the architect or the designer has kept the site ready, then the shoot goes very fast, because on a shoot, majority of the time goes in just setting up the space and getting things ready. What it will take to set up your website is minimal compared to the time you will probably need to develop the content for it. All right. Moving on.
Yeah.
There were two variations of the same question. Essentially, or at what stage in one's career does one have a website?
So I would say it is always a good idea to have your website, because as I said, it's your digital representation. So even if you are a fresher, it doesn't matter, because what happens is, taking an example, like if so even if you're a fresher or you are an old agency, website is definitely required.
Okay. There was a question by Suraj Kalani and Arbudra. The question was, projects, if they are a firm, what kind of content they can put up on their website?
Yeah, so again, like the earlier point I said, share ideas, you could write a blog. Not necessarily you have to have projects listed. Let's say you're a fresher, you don't have projects, but then putting your ideas into place, getting a blog of some sort, sharing some interesting articles that you find on the web. You could share and do that. Not necessarily it has to be a portfolio of works. Having a dialogue or having a blog or having some sort of a communication tool on your website. It's just that having a digital presence makes it a positive approach for the future, and chances of you having authenticity on the content.
Got it. Okay. We have a question that basically says, if I'm a friend, no, you cannot do that. Those photos and those projects do not belong to you. I'm sure Vachan also agrees.
Yeah, there are many reasons for no. I can't answer for yes.
Just no, just don't do it.
I always come down to one single point which I have. We talk more in visuals, like a photography, a photograph is what defines a lot of what you want to express, and that's the reason why, like for example, taking a design philosophy you have, so you could probably use the same white background for your website, which probably 10 people have. You could use the same font, like a typeface, like a monospace typeface, which architects love for. Website. So content is what makes it different.
All right. So we have about a minute or two left. Let me.
Sorry, sir. Connective issues.
Are we easy?
I can clearly say no. You have set things in your mind. So even if having experience, like I'm talking about my own self, I've been making websites since 18 years now, like almost 17 plus years. So what happens is I know, and as I said, the user flow or the UX, user experience matters. So you might think, oh, I need 10 photographs to be in a grid. But some projects may not work in a grid. They might need a scroller. They might talking to you, a web professional is talking to you. They're talking with the experience of how the front end person is going to see. You as a designer professional have envisioned